She cried for mercy as the billionaire closed the door on her. Yet destiny had already sent someone, a poor man with a heart of gold. They say money can't buy everything. But let me ask you something. If your own husband, worth billions, looked you in the eyes while you carried his child and said, "Get out," would you beg? Would you fall to your knees? Would you remind him of the vows, let alone the ring on your finger? No, most women would. They'd cry. They'd whisper promises about being better wives. They'd cling to his designer suits, like fabric to hold together a breaking heart. But that night in Lagos, inside a marble mansion with crystal chandeliers and soft piano music playing in the background, the richest woman in the city was being thrown away, and the only person who would catch her was the homeless man they all pretended didn't exist. Her name was Adunni Okoro, wife of the telecom mogul, mother-to-be, owner of 2 fashion empires. People called her Lagos Queen. But that night, she was just a woman with nowhere to go. 8 months pregnant, standing in the rain, suitcase torn, no car keys, gate locked behind her. The betrayal came like lightning. Sharp, sudden, deep. She clutched her belly, the black silk of her evening dress clinging to her swollen frame. Adunni couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't even remember her own phone number. All she saw, through the blurred tears, was a large shadow moving toward her. A man, 50, maybe 60, weather-beaten face, patched jacket, bare feet, and something in his hands, a torn umbrella and a plastic bottle of water. Was he dangerous? No, he was covering her head with the umbrella, gently. Then he saw her condition, saw the suitcase, saw the pain, and before she could speak, he pulled off his own jacket and whispered, "Sister, you know fit stand for rain like this. Come, I get small place." His name was Emeka. He didn't have money, didn't have family, didn't even remember what home felt like. He slept behind the church, shared leftover rice with stray cats, and drank from public taps. But the day his own wife died, when he was 30, he remembered one thing. She said, "Never let a pregnant woman suffer alone. Even if all you have is shelter, share it." So when he saw Adunni cry in that storm, he didn't hesitate. He acted with gentle hands. Emeka lifted her suitcase and guided her to his corner. "No worry, sister," he whispered, voice steady. "Rain go stop soon. You go birth safe. I day here." But she was shaking. Cold, wet, suitcase soaked, clothes dripping, heart breaking apart. All around them, cars splashed past. No one stopped. No one cared. But Emeka didn't leave. He opened his cardboard shelter, spread his only blanket on the ground, made space for her, asked no questions. "Wedding your husband, do you?" he finally whispered. She couldn't answer. Only tears. He didn't push. He just said, "Tomorrow go better. Today rest." Adunni woke up the next morning on concrete. The homeless man had given her his blanket, his pillow a folded shirt, his breakfast half a loaf of bread. She blinked. Why? He was sitting nearby, watching the sunrise. Because nah person you be, and every person deserves small kindness. But when Adunni tried to call her family, her phone was blocked, bank cards frozen, friends wouldn't answer. Either they were afraid of her husband, or they didn't believe her story. Either way, she was alone. And yet, something inside her awakened. This billionaire's wife, who had worn diamonds to charity galas, who vacationed in Dubai, who bought shoes worth more than cars, was being protected by the very person she used to step over. She kept hearing his voice, his patience, that steady hand guiding her to safety, that blanket, thin, worn, but freely given to keep her warm. She wept, not just from abandonment, but from revelation. How many Amikas had she ignored? How many had she driven past in her Bentley, without a thought? And now one of them, a man with nothing, had offered everything to keep her safe. The next day, she made a decision. If God put me here through a homeless man, then I belong here until I understand why. But what happened next shocked even her. Because 3 days later, when her husband sent men to find her, That same man stood between them and her. And this time, he wasn't backing down. The men came in black SUVs, tinted windows, designer suits, guns barely hidden. Emeka was buying her bottled water when they arrived. "Where's she?" the leader asked him. "Who you day find?" Emeka replied calmly. "Don't play games, old man." The pregnant woman. "Her husband wants her back." Emeka set down the water bottle. "She no won't go back." The man laughed. "And who are you to decide?" "I be person way day protect person." The leader stepped closer. "You're nobody. She's worth 50 billion naira. You sleep in dirt." Emeka nodded. "True, but I get something way money no fit buy." "What?" "Conscience." What did Emeka know that they didn't? Why was Adunni's husband so desperate to find her? And when the truth finally came out, it changed everything she thought she knew about marriage, about power, and about who really owns who. 2 months later, Adunni stood in front of a cracked mirror, holding a small wooden comb. It wasn't ivory, just carved wood. Something Emeka had bought from a street vendor for 20 naira. But to her, it felt more precious than gold. Because the woman staring back, thin, tired, but with eyes full of fire, was no longer the woman who begged at mansion gates. A woman who had learned to survive. "Sister," Emeka knocked gently on the door of the small room he'd rented for her. "Doctor say you ready." Her heart stopped. Labor had begun. She rushed through the narrow corridor, one hand on her belly. The contractions were getting stronger. She still feared him sometimes, not Emeka, but what this meant. Giving birth without hospitals, without money, without the father who threw her away. "I no fit do this," she whispered. "You fit," Emeka said firmly. "Strong woman like you go do him well. He had borrowed a taxi, and in his pocket, every naira he'd saved for 3 months. 700 naira for her delivery. "Why you day help me so?" she asked as they drove. "I tell you before," he said quietly. "My wife died during childbirth. No money for hospital. I no fit save her." Her throat tightened. "I sorry." He looked away. "But I fit save you." At the clinic, the nurse almost turned them away. "She look expensive," the woman said, eyeing Adunni's face. "But her money?" Emeka emptied his pocket. "Now all I get." The nurse counted slowly. 700 naira? For delivery? You day craze." But then she saw Adunni double over in pain. She sighed. "Bring her." 8 hours later, a cry filled the small room. A baby boy, healthy, strong, eyes wide open. But when the nurse placed him in Adunni's arms, she didn't feel joy at first. She felt terror. "How I go take care of him?" Emeka sat beside her bed. "Same way I take care of you. One day at a time." She looked at her son's face. He had his father's nose. But his grip? Tiny fingers wrapped around hers. Felt like hope. "Wouldn't you go call Em?" Emeka asked. She thought for a moment. Chukwuma. God knows. That night, Adunni couldn't sleep. She went through her memories again. The night her husband threw her out. The rain. The fear. But deeper than that, she remembered something else. The last thing he'd said before closing the gate. "You think say I no? You think say I no see the papers." What papers? She'd been too shocked to ask. Too hurt to think. But now, holding her newborn son, she began to wonder. What had he found? What had made him so angry that he'd risk his reputation, throwing out his pregnant wife in full view of the neighbors? And the next morning, she got her answer. A letter arrived. Not for her. For Emeka. Someone had been watching them, tracking their movements. The letter was typed. No signature. But the message was clear. Stop protecting her. We know about the inheritance. We know about the will. Keep helping her, and you disappear. Emeka read it twice, then crumpled it up. Wouldn't be inheritance? Adunni asked. He shook his head. I know, but somebody day fear something. That afternoon, while Emeka was buying baby formula, Adunni received her own visitor, her younger sister, Kemi, the first family member to find her since the night she was thrown out. But Kemi didn't come with hugs. She came with warnings. A dunny you done get sense? You day stay with beggar man. He helped me when nobody helped me. But you get husband, you get house, you get money. A dunny looked at her baby. I no get nothing. He take everything. Kemi sat down. That no lie. She pulled out a folded document. Papa will, the real one. A dunny's hands trembled as she opened it. Her father, who died 5 years ago, had left everything to her, not to her husband, not to the family business. To her, directly. But I never see this before. Because your husband hide am. He been day forge documents. They use your name sign papers. They steal your inheritance piece by piece. A dunny's vision blurred. So, what didn't happen when I born? If you get son, everything supposed go to your son. Your husband no go get nothing. She looked down at Chukuma. This baby, this tiny boy sleeping in her arms, was worth more than her husband's entire empire. And her husband knew. So, why he throw me out? Kemi's voice dropped. Because he day planned something. If you know day around when you born, if something happened to you during delivery, the inheritance go to him as grieving widower. The room went cold. You mean he won't make you die? But before Dunny could process this fully, Emeka returned. He saw the paper in her hands, saw the fear in her eyes, and without asking questions, he moved to the window. 3 black cars were parked outside, waiting. He turned to her and whispered, "We need go. Now." But as they rushed toward the back door, they heard footsteps. Heavy, multiple, getting closer. And Chukuma, as if sensing danger, began to cry. What did they want? Who had sent them? And when a dunny discovered what her husband had planned all along, would she choose to run or finally fight back? But more importantly, could a homeless man really protect the billionaires there? Or would the system crush them both? 3 years later, a dunny stood at the edge of a small garden, holding a wooden toy truck. It wasn't expensive, just carved wood, something Emeka had made with his own hands for Chukuma's birthday. But to her, it represented more than any luxury she'd ever owned, because the child playing in the dirt, laughing, running, with dimples just like hers, was only alive because a homeless man had chosen courage over safety. A man who had vanished that night, and never asked for anything in return. Mama, her security guard walked over, face serious. There's someone at the gate. Says he knows you. A dunny barely looked up. Name. He just said, tell her. I'd be the one-way cover her with umbrella. Her heart stopped. The toy truck fell from her hand. She rushed through the compound barefoot. The moment the gate opened, she almost didn't recognize him. Emeka was grayer, still thin, still wearing worn-out clothes, but now his eyes held wisdom. His hands were steady. He's still like a man who had found peace. He had a small bag in one hand, and in the other, an umbrella. The same umbrella, patched, broken, but still functional. A dunny's lips trembled. Emeka, he smiled quietly. She fell to her knees. Why you disappear? She whispered. I no disappear, he said gently. I just hide from your husband people. They been day look for me, not to thank me, to silence me. Her throat tightened. Where you been? He looked away. Learning. That night, Emeka told her everything. After they escaped that day, he had taken her to a safe house, run by an old pastor who helped women in danger. But when her husband's men kept searching, Emeka made a choice. He left, not to abandon her, but to protect her. If I stay, them go find you. So I go far, make them follow me instead. For 3 years, he had lived in different cities. Abuja, Kano, Port Harcourt, always moving, always watching, and always learning. Learning when? He pulled out the small bag. Inside were documents, photographs, bank statements. Learning who your husband really be. A dunny's hand shook as she opened the first file. Medical records. Her husband had been poisoning her. Slowly. For months before he threw her out. This not why I been day feel weak, she whispered. Emeka nodded. He won't make you sick. Make the pregnancy fail. Then nobody go question when you die. The second file was worse. Insurance policies. Her husband had taken out 3 life insurance policies on her, each worth 50 million naira, all signed after she got pregnant. He'd been day plan M from beginning. The third file made her vomit. Bank transfers. Her husband had already spent her inheritance, every naira, on properties, businesses, other women. And now, with her legally missing for 3 years, he was preparing to declare her dead. Tomorrow, Emeka said quietly, he go file the papers. Then everything go become his. Adunni looked toward her son's room. When we go do, Emeka stood up. We go show the world who he really be. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Her husband arrived, not with lawyers, not with threats, but with flowers and television cameras. He had organized a press conference. Grieving husband searches for missing wife and son. Adunni watched from her window as he spoke to reporters. I miss my beautiful wife, Adunni. She disappeared 3 years ago while pregnant. I fear someone kidnapped her. I just want my family back. He even cried. Real tears. The reporters ate it up. Billionaire's heartbreak. 3 years of searching. Devoted husband offers 100 million naira reward. Where's Adunni Okoro? Adunni's stomach turned. He day make himself look like victim. Emeka watched calmly. Make he talk. We get proof. But when they tried to release the documents, something blocked them. Every media house refused to publish. Every lawyer declined to take the case. Every social media post got deleted within minutes. Her husband had bought everyone. When we go do now? Adunni asked. Emeka thought for a moment. We go give them something money no fit buy. Wedding. Truth. From person way them no fit silence. That evening, Chukwuma fell sick. High fever. Vomiting. Difficulty breathing. They rushed him to the hospital. But at registration, the nurse recognized Adunni. You be the missing woman for TV. Within minutes, the hospital was surrounded. Police. Reporters. Her husband's security. And her husband himself. He walked into the pediatric ward like he owned it, which technically he did. My darling wife, he said loudly for the cameras. Thank God you're safe. And my son, look how big he's grown. He reached for Chukwuma, but the boy, despite being sick, turned away and reached for Emeka instead. Papa Emeka, Chukwuma whispered. The room went silent. Her husband's smile faltered. Papa what? Emeka stepped forward. Na me bin day take care of them when you throw them comet. Her husband laughed. This madman? Security, remove him. But Emeka didn't move. I get something for you. He pulled out a recording device and pressed play. Her husband's voice filled the room. Make sure say she knows survived the delivery. If anything happened to me later, at least I go get the inheritance clean. The conversation continued, planning her death, bribing doctors, forging documents, every detail. The reporters gasped. The police moved toward her husband, but he wasn't done. You think that recording go save you, he hissed. I own this state. I own these people. Nobody go believe homeless man over me. Emeka smiled. Maybe, but them go believe her. He pressed another button. This time, it was Adunni's voice. From 3 years ago, telling her full story. With dates, names, witnesses, everything. I record on that first night, Emeka explained. When she tell me when happened. I know say one day we gon' need proof. Her husband's face went pale. The police moved closer. But then, something nobody expected. Chukwuma sat up in his hospital bed, looked directly at his father, and said, You know be my papa. Papa Emeka be my papa. What happened next changed everything. Not just for one family, but for everyone watching. Because sometimes truth doesn't come from courtrooms or newspapers. Sometimes it comes from the mouth of a 3-year-old boy. Who knows the difference between a man who throws you away and a man who catches you when you fall? But Would that be enough to bring down a billionaire? And what price would Emeka pay for standing up to power? The final battle was just beginning. 6 months later, Adunni stood in front of a courthouse, holding Chukwuma's hand. It wasn't the Supreme Court, just a local magistrate's office, filled with wooden benches and flickering fluorescent lights. But to her, it felt more important than any palace. Because a man walking through those doors, no longer in designer suits but in prison uniform, was finally facing justice. A man who had tried to buy his way out of truth, but couldn't buy his way out of consequences. Mama, Chukwuma tugged at her dress. Papa, Emeka go come? Her throat tightened. Emeka hadn't been seen in 2 weeks, not since her husband's final desperate move. The trial had been swift. Her husband's lawyers tried everything. Character assassination, bribery, intimidation. But the evidence was overwhelming. The poisoning reports, the forged documents, the insurance policies, and most damaging, the recordings, not just from that first night, but 3 years' worth. Emeka had documented everything, every threat, every bribe attempt, every plan to silence witnesses. He had built an unbreakable case. Where did you learn to do this? The prosecutor had asked him. From watching. For 3 years, I watch how power work, how money move, how system bend. And you recorded it all? Every word. But her husband wasn't going down alone. On his last day of freedom, he made one final call to people who specialize in making problems disappear. Emeka had been buying vegetables that morning when they found him. 3 men, expensive suits, quiet voices. Old man, you cause too much trouble. I just tell truth. Truth is dangerous. They didn't kill him. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they took him somewhere isolated and made him an offer, 50 million naira, to disappear forever. Emeka looked at the money, then at the photo they showed him. Adunni and Chukwuma at the playground. Choose, they said, money or their safety. He chose safety, but not the way they expected. Instead of taking the money and running, Emeka did something else. He called the one person he trusted, Pastor Michael, who had hidden Adunni years ago. I need you to record something, he said. What? My final testimony. The recording arrived at the courthouse that morning. Emeka's voice, clear and steady. If you day hear this, that means something done happened to me. But make I tell you people something. I no regret nothing. I see woman for rain. I help am. Her husband try kill her. I stop am. If that mean I go die, so be it. He paused. But make una no say I no be saint. I no be hero. I just be man way do wedding right. And if every person for this country do wedding right, no billionaire go fit by justice. No rich man go fit throwaway wife. No power go fit silence truth. Another pause. Adunni, take care of that boy. Make he no say his real father no be the one way born am. Now the one way choose to love am. The recording ended. When it played in court, there wasn't a dry eye. Even the judge wiped his face. Her husband tried to object. This is hearsay. Manipulation. Where is this man? Why isn't he here to testify? But his own lawyer whispered something in his ear. His face went white. Because that morning, the news had broken. Homeless hero found dead in Lagos Lagoon. Man who exposed billionaire fraud dies mysteriously. Emeka's last stand. The recording that changed everything. The judge called for recess. In the hallway, Adunni collapsed against the wall. He died because of me. Pastor Michael sat beside her. He died because he chose love over fear. That no be your fault. But if I never need help, if you never need help, 1,000 other women go still days suffer. Emeka know that. That not why he no run. Chukwuma looked up. Papa Emeka for heaven? Pastor Michael nodded. Yes, and he day watch you. The verdict came 3 hours later. Guilty on all charges. Attempted murder, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, 25 years to life. Her husband was dragged away, still shouting. You think this is over? I have friends. I have connections. I'll be out in 2 years. But his voice faded, and for the first time in years, Dunny felt peace. 6 months later, she stood in front of a new building. Not a mansion, not a corporate headquarters, but a shelter. The sign read, Emika's house, with a homeless fine home. Inside, 40 people lived. Men who had lost everything. Women fleeing danger. Children with nowhere to go. And in the center of the main room, a photograph. Emika, smiling, holding his torn umbrella. Underneath, a plaque. Papa Emika, he taught us that home is not a place. It's a person who chooses to stay. Chukwuma, now 4, ran to the shelter daily. The residents called him Young Boss, but he corrected them every time. I no be boss. Papa Emika be boss. I just be his boy. One evening, as Dunny tucked him into bed, he asked, Mama, why Papa Emika help us? She thought carefully. Because some people see problem and run. Some people see problem and complain. But Papa Emika see problem and ask, Wouldn't I fit do? And he always finds something. He always finds something. Chukwuma smiled. When I big, I go be like Papa Emika. How? I go help people where nobody want help. That night, Dunny received a call from a lawyer in Abuja. Mrs. Okoro, we found something in your father's old safe. Something your husband missed. Wedding. Another will. The original. From before he started changing documents. Her heart stopped. And, according to this will, you didn't just inherit money. You inherited a foundation, set up specifically to help homeless people. She started crying. How much? 2 billion naira. Untouched. Your husband never knew it existed. Dunny looked at Emika's photo. Papa Emika, she whispered. You still take care of us. 2 years later, Emika's house had become a movement. 20 branches across Nigeria. Thousands of people housed, fed, trained, and employed. And at the center of it all, a simple philosophy. Every person deserves dignity. Every kindness matters. Every life has value. Chukwuma, now 6, had started school, but every afternoon he came home to the shelter, did his homework with the residents, ate dinner with the families, played with children who had been thrown away by society, and every night before bed, he stood in front of Emika's photo. Thank you, Papa Emika, for choosing us. One evening, as Dunny balanced the shelter books, she found a letter, old, yellowed, hidden in Emika's jacket, the one he'd given her that first night. She opened it carefully. It was written in his handwriting. To the woman I will save someday. I don't know your name. I don't know your face. But I know you exist. Somewhere, there is a woman who will need help. And when that day comes, I will be ready, not because I am strong, but because I was saved once too. By a pregnant woman who shared her last piece of bread with me. By a teacher who taught me to read. By a pastor who reminded me that God uses broken people. So when your time comes, when the rain falls and the world turns dark, remember this. You are not forgotten. You are not worthless. You are not alone. Someone is coming, and they will stay, with love, a future friend. Dunny pressed a letter to her chest, and finally understood. Emika hadn't saved her by accident. He had been preparing his whole life for that moment, for her, for Chukwuma, for everyone who would come after. If you think kindness is weakness, it's not. If you believe the poor have nothing to give, they do. And if you think one person can't change the world, you're wrong. But you're also right, because sometimes change doesn't look like victory. Sometimes it looks like sacrifice. And legacy always costs something. But what it builds lasts forever. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away. Share this with someone who has ever felt abandoned. Tell us, have you ever been saved by a stranger? Your story could change someone else's life.